was Bob Ellis's wedding, and they sang during the ceremony. The band played Waltzing Matilda. It seemed to imply that someone was going to lose limbs in that thing, but it was just the gratitude that Australians felt to have a great song that represented their memory, written by a kid who happened to come from Peebles in Scotland. And the gratitude, as was obvious last night, has not died to this day. But let's go from gratitude to something more ambiguous, and that is, does your wife Carmel have the same breathless gratitude and devotion as your fans?
Well, early on in our marriage, I made her quite breathless on a few occasions. I mean, she's been my support. Any performing musician will tell you, without a partner that supports you, it's almost impossible. You know, you've got to have a support at home that supports everything you do. And they've got to sacrifice quite a lot sometimes. Yeah, I mean, she actually likes my music. That sounds maybe, well, why shouldn't she? I know musicians whose partners don't like their partner's music very much. They're very rarely go to the concerts for support. So I've been lucky in that sense.
That'd be hard if you didn't have a partner on board.
No.
Mine is the same. I married a working class girl with good convict stock, and she turned out to be a very good editor. When I was raising the breast when she was young, and I didn't think to ask her, was she a good primary editor?
Well, it's surprising you forgot to ask her.
And have you noticed people are gratified when they know you've got a good partner?
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? They like to think.
Eric, we can't hear you.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
There we go. Right. You must remember that. Yes, that's it. Yeah. Partners are always a great bellwether too of your work, you know, because Carmel's heard every, a lot of concerts, far more than any person in the world, and she's suffered through the pangs of my songs. So when she offers advice or observations, you've got to pay attention.
Yeah.
But Carmel is a typical sort of Victorian Catholic. She doesn't like to overpraise things. So if I come off the stage full of myself and shouts of Wonko ringing in my ears and women through her underwear and everything, and luckily missing. And I say to Carol, what was it like, darling? And she said, it was quite nice. Now that is high praise talk. And I go, oh.
Well, it's not all partners can do that. Neither male nor female can fit their lives to the mad thing you're doing. Things that career advisors in schools they never say to a kid, you ought to be the new Eric Taylor, or you ought to be a novelist. It's the last card in the pack. And therefore, it's amazing how over a relationship these men and women can adapt.
Yeah, the general public won't recognise that what they're seeing or reading is a product of two people, sometimes three, sometimes four. We're very rarely a lone genius, if you like, you know, without an earthly support at the back of us, without, when you get off this, it's a strange business for me. I mean, being a musician is interesting the way that you get instant return on your efforts. You do a live concert, people clap or they walk out, so you know where you stand. But when you have a great concert, you're on a high, of course, so you go back to a motel room somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and you're on your own, and suddenly the feeling, it's all gone. You think, it's all temporary, isn't it? So you've got constant in your life. You know, that's what partners provide.
Yeah.
And when you go home, you know, everything's so familiar, everything's so comforting, and there's no expectations. You know, and Carmel doesn't ask me when I wrote the Band People's Matilda constantly, you know, because she knows. So, yeah, I mean, we are a product. Most performing artists, most artists are a product, not just of themselves, their own genius and imagination, a product of the people behind that support them.
Also, your father's playing there in your band too, somehow.
Well,
Your bagpiping father.
he's a presence in my life. My father and I, we came from a fairly dysfunctional family. My father and I didn't really get on. And it wasn't just because he played bagpipes. That was a factor. But the older you get, the more you realise just what a product of your mum and dad you are. You deny it in your, you know, trendy young years, you know, you don't want to be like them. But nature takes over, and that's it, you become them. I mean, just a few weeks ago, Tom, I was shaving in the mirror, you know, and the first thing in the morning your defences are not fully lifted. So when you look in the mirror, you actually see what's there, which can be quite frightening. And I saw my father, just for a brief second, and the expression on my face, it was my father looking back at me there, really shook me. Because my dad was quite, well, compared to me, he was tall. He was about 5'11", and he was a ruddy sort of bloke with auburn hair. So I really, you'd think I wouldn't look like anything like him. But there he was, looking right back at me, and it was really and now my temperament is becoming more like his, which is a pity, but that's the way it is. So I'm becoming more like my father, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
What he'd make of my songs, I've no idea. My mother was proud, because that's what mothers are.
Yes.
Look, my son likes songs, you know. My father, I wrote a song about him. I've written a few songs about my family, because they're all dead and they can't sue me.
Well, the two to Nancy, I've heard two that you've written to your mother.
Yeah.
And they're both exquisite.
Well, she was exquisitely lassie. I mean, my father's relationship, well, my relationship with my father was different, of course, so the songs were different. And the first song I wrote for him was a song called No Use For Him. And he was a railwayman, British Rail. And the beaching cuts of the 60s, my father was laid off. And he got a pension of 10 shillings a week. He could take a lump sum payment of, you know, a couple £100, or a pension, 9 and 6 cents a week it was, or something. So I wrote a song for him called No Use For Him, because that's what it had. And on the rare occasions I sang for my father, and there's a song. I sang that to him once in my living room in the house in Peebles. And he said, "It's a nice song, son." He didn't relate it to himself at all. Because he saw himself in his life quite differently than I saw him.
Yeah.
But he had no idea the song's about him, and so I never sang it for him again, of course. But I wrote, the other two songs I wrote for him were loss and guilt songs. You know, when he died, after we'd had a very fractious relationship for most of our existence, I found all these poems that he'd written, unbeknown to me.
Yeah.
And they were just bits of doggerel, Tom, they weren't Rabbie Burns. But they were a side of my father I'd never ever dreamed existed. My father rhymed poetry, never. So I wrote a song called Scraps of Paper, where I regretted the fact that if I'd known my father at that side, maybe we could have had something more in common.
Yeah.
And then I wrote a song when I scattered his ashes over the River Tweed after he died, which was his wish. And I thought to myself as I was scattering the ashes, this is a life circle being completed. Because my father was a local poacher, and he lifted many salmon and trout out of that river. And then it was going back to feed the fish. Well, that's life, my father.
Yes.
Anyway.
Used he tickle the salmon like good old poachers?
Oh, no, he used to. He had a cleek.
Oh, yeah.
A cleek is a gaff. Except it doesn't have a barb in it. Because what you did when you poached the salmon, and I'm not talking cooking-wise here, you walked up the bottom and you saw the salmon, you shone a torch in it, and it sort of went hypnotised for a while, and you waded in, you put the gaff over the other side of it, and you hooked it back as hard as you could, and then threw it back over your shoulder, and then slip off the gaff because there's no bar, onto the bank, and then you'd run like hell to the bank before it slithered back in the water, because it went straight back into the water, and you'd beat it to death with your torch.
Gee.
It's a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
And that was poaching people style in 1962.
That's functional working class poaching.
Oh, we're doing it. My father did it food for the table.
Yes.
But also any extra couple of wee drams, he'd sell them to local hotels. You know, he wasn't an industrial type poacher. He was just, you know. So that was one of the things I admired about him, and his bagpipe.
Well, you've certainly left Nancy as a known woman, the way Frank McCourt left Angela, his obscure mother, memorable forever in Angela's ashes. The great thing about, we don't have to barbecue you because you're self-barbecuing. If they could produce a supermarket name like you, no one would have to waste gas. And that's part of your charm. My grandson remarked on that last night, that you're very quick to prevent anyone else running you down because you're in such a rush to do it yourself. And this is one of the charms of your patter between songs. I just wonder, it's apparent to you last night when if you run out of your lyrics, the audience will supply them for you. It's apparent the gratitude Australians have for you and for the fact that you came here. And I just wondered, when you emigrated, did you have a flirtation with Canada or the US before you chose Australia?
No. There's many reasons for it. My generation in Scotland were lucky, if you want to put it that way, because we had a choice of alternative lives. We could go to Canada, New Zealand, South Africa, Rhodesia as it was then, or Australia. Going to Canada cost £50. Going to South Africa cost £30 from memory. New Zealand was £20. And Australia was £10. I'm there already. I had a sister, and still got a sister who lives in Sydney, elder sister now, and spent most of her life in Canberra, but she's now in Sydney. She'd emigrated here 2 years before, and I'd always had a fascination for Australia through the Anzacs. When I was 12 years old, I bought 12 volumes of the World War I Illustrated. They were just a propaganda sheet made out of a volume sold after the war. But I read all about the Anzacs in Bogle. I knew about Lone Pine and Simpson and Donkey, all this sort of stuff, before I came to Australia. And I've always had a weakness for military stuff, and it always fascinated me too. And I thought, well, I'd love to go to the country that provided these men, because they were pretty special, and see what the country's like, you know. Being young, of course, well, I'm relatively. I was 24 when I came here. I thought, well, if it doesn't suit me, I'll move on. You know, youth is a...
Carmel intervened, no moving on.
No, she just... That's dead right. I mean, I came with a friend of mine, though we came separately, but... and he'd been the captain of the rugby club and I was the vice captain, so we came across the show together and we had these plans. We're going to go... We had friends here already who were out back shooting rabbits for all of it, believe it or not, a long time ago that. So we were going to do a bit of rabbit shooting maybe, until we had enough money to buy a jeep, and then we'll get ahead for Indonesia and back always. We've got this wonderful, you know, trip. And he met Lorraine, I met Carl, and that was the end of it. Not the end of the journey. There were just different journeys to be taken after that. But all those stupid male macho dreams, really, which it were, it would never have happened anyway. And I've never looked back and thought, geez, she spoiled my life. Of course, that's not true. And then she just...
You're conditioned out of thinking that way.
You're a very cynical young man. Well, if you say so.
So it was Australia from the start. I didn't know that you had pre-immigration, this thing about the Australians.
Well, I actually applied for papers twice and then didn't send them in. And the third time I thought, no, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. So I filled them in and they wanted me to fly, and I'd never flown in my life, so I came with a ship. But it was really interesting because the papers I got from Australia House in London showed F.J. Holden's on streets with trams, and it's straight from the 40s and 50s, you know. And this was 69 when I emigrated. So the publicity that the Australia House had for prospective migrants for me was really well out of date. You know, it was, and so when I came here, I landed at Circular Quay, 22nd of July, 1969. It was my 50th anniversary of landing in Australia. And I remember walking down George Street, Pitt Street, this very street thing, and the energy and the optimism and the feel was just so, you can almost touch it. And I thought, wow, you know, this country's going places. I walked down it yesterday, changed a bit. So that's disappointing. You know, it's still, as I said on my Facebook page, it's not the country I hoped it would be, but I'm not the man I hoped I'd be. And it's still the country in my heart. I couldn't live anywhere else. I've been here 50 years. This is my home in all senses of the word. And because you always hope for something you love to be better. And Australia's good enough, but it could have been a lot better. Enough.
She's dancing with a pretty shonky mob at the moment. She's like a girlfriend who's dancing with the wrong people.
Yeah, I might use that in a song one day, Thomas.
You're very welcome. When you were a kid, you had this wonderful group who were called Eric and the... Oh, in my notes. This is what happens when you're 83, your notes run out on you. Eric and the...
Informal.
And the Informers, what a great... that's what made me think you might be of Fenian background.
Very tenuous link there, Tom. No, it was after a film of the same name, starring Dirk Bogle. And I was a bit of a Dirk Bogle fan, actually, so I used to go to see his movies, and this was one of his more obtruse ones, but because you remember back in those days, every rock group was called something, you know, the Saracens, the Crusaders or whatever. So we called ourselves the Informers. And we had a uniform, which was a blue jacket with cloth-covered buttons, of course. Tight grey trousers with buttons all down the sides. Cowboy boots, white ruffled shirt and a string tie. I mean, you can look at me now and see me in it, can't you? And we looked great and we sounded like shite, you know. And now it's the other way around.
You know, it's funny, if you're lucky in the arts, you get known. Les Murray, a great Australian poet, said before he died, most poets are known for about 6 poems.
Yeah.
And you're lucky if you're known for 3 or 4 songs or 1 novel or so on. And everyone, I feel that your comic songs are really top-notch, particularly that song on people who sing like Dylan. Really top of their class in the humour genre, but they're not quite as famous as No Man's Land and the band played Waltzing Matilda. Do you mind if I indulge myself by asking you, would you be willing to do your imitation of Dylan singers and of Dylan that you did in your song?
Oh, geez, I haven't done this for years and years.
You write too many bloody songs.
The natural, deterioration of my voice makes me sound like Bob more every day. I'm not really a fan of his singing, but
no, you don't have to.
his songwriting are fantastic. I can't even remember, I'm sorry. I need a guitar in my hand before I can remember any lyrics. Isn't it strange? Because my guitar's my songwriting tool. That's how I write my melodies, and a cappella singing is something I rarely do. So unless I've got holding my guitar in my hands, or a double scotch, I find it very hard to remember my songs. I kid you not, I can't remember the first line of that song. It was so long ago. I remember singing it in Minneapolis, Cedar Rapids Theatre in Minneapolis. And a fellow came up to the end and said, look, he said, it's a really good invitation, I'll take his word for it. He said, there's a hotel down the road. 5 years ago it started a Bob Dylan sound-alike contest. He said, you should go in for that, they'll have it every year. And the thing was, typical in sort of America, it started very small, a carton of beer for the winner. And now the winner was going to have $100,000 in prizes. And they were flying in from Norway and Iceland and Japan just to sound like Bob Dylan. Yeah. So, imitation, they say, is the sincerest form of flattery, which is bullshit. Of course it's not.
You'd need an adenoids transplant to win
it. Reverting to my mother briefly, Tom, my twin sister, I've got a twin sister, and she was going out with every prospective brother-in-law and father-in-law's dream. He was a diesel mechanic for automobiles. And she threw him over and started going out with this bloke called Ron, who was a window dresser from Edinburgh. We didn't need our windows dressed at the time. And, anyway, we hadn't met him. My sister got engaged to him, and none of us had met him except my sister, of course. And so we sent my mother through to check him out. So she came back after an afternoon, and my father said, "What's he like, Nancy?" And my mother said, "Well, he's a nice lad, very well spoken, very well spoken, very polite, but he's no adenoids." And I said to her, "What do you mean, he speaks funny?" He said, "No, he's got a sort of pockmarked face. he's no adenoids. And I thought, she meant he's no Adonis. So you can guess what the nickname of our brother-in-law is. Adenoids Wilson. That was just a mere aside to get your mind off Bogle.
Well, let me tell you, that's a great song. I love it. I'm a bit cranky at him because he's never been to collect his Nobel Prize for literature. And you think a bloke who wins the Nobel Prize would at least turn up at some stage. He hasn't been there post factum to accept it. I think he's a bit lucky to get in the first place with his lack of enunciation. However, and of course nobody's mogging now. You've made a couple of, but there's a song that I love called My Youngest Son Came Home Today, and it's about the troubles in Ireland, isn't it?
Yep.
And it's not specified because it doesn't matter what side you're on. If your son dies, that's the cosmic fact, not whether you're a paddy or a prod. And it's a beautiful, that is an exquisite song, and it's been performed. That's the great thing. You must really, even though you'd send yourself up for it, get a buzz when people like the Cause and the Furies and Billy Bragg and Joan Baez and all the others, the Scotch singers, your own Scotch people who, the Corries, they perform your songs, and they're really good, they're quite competitive with your level of expertise as a performer. So this must be a great joy to you, the greatest compliment.
My youngest son came home today. His friends marched with him all the way. The flutes and drums beat out the time, as in his box of polished pine lay dead meat on a butcher's tray. My youngest son came home today. My youngest son was a fine young man, with a wife, a daughter and a son. A man he would have lived and died, till by a bullet sanctified. Now he's a saint, or so they say, and they brought their saint home today. Above the narrow Belfast streets, an Irish sky looks down, weeps on children's blood in gutters spilled, in dreams of freedom unfulfilled, as part of freedom's price to pay. My youngest son came home today. My youngest son came home today. His friends marched with him all the way. The flutes and drums beat out the time, as in his box of polished pine, like dead meat on a butcher's tray. My youngest son came home today. And this time, he's home to stay. I'll tell you a disturbing story about that one, Tom. The first line, first verse I sing, the flutes and drums beat out the time. And I sang this song in Hampstead, London, a pub in Hampstead, London, quite a long time ago. And at the end of the gig, this very attractive new Irish lassie came on. I thought, well, it's normal. And she said, why do you support these fucking prodigies all the time? I said, what do you mean? He said, you're Protestants, you keep supporting them in your songs. And I said, what are you talking about? Of course, see the bands across the Northern Line, the flutes and drums, they're the prodigies. The pipes and drums are the Catholics. That's the distinction. Now, being just an innocent bystander, just try to get across the tragedy of the whole business, I didn't care. And I said to her, I said, I don't care. I said, you know, your prejudice and your stupidity is shown, so, you know, go away. In fact, I didn't quite say go away. But that's you must have had it in your writing, that people pick you up on points that you think, well, you might be right, but what's the point? You know?
Yeah.
So it must have happened to you 100 times.
It happened the other night that a bloke came up to me at the Jewish Museum and he said, you want people to take in these refugees. Look at what's happened in Germany. Angela Merkel has taken in a great number of Syrians, and they're all anti-Semitic. So they'll grow up to be anti-Semitic and revive Nazism. So it's not a good idea to take in refugees, therefore. And I could have said to him, look, if you made peace, if Netanyahu treated the Palestinians halfway fair, it wouldn't be a problem. And if these people would grow up as pluralists and citizens like us, but it's no use arguing with that sort of ignorance, that scale of obsession. And often people who have that obsession, in any case, have a trauma in their own background that has made them hypersensitive to what you say.
Yeah. It's disappointing when you run across it. I don't know, I've run across it a few times like Thomas, and again, I wrote a song many years ago, Other People's Children. It was a song about images on television and film and newspapers that I could never shake. You know, you see a picture that really disturbs you sometimes, and it just stays with you. So I wrote a song cataloguing a series of starting with the Korean War, going through Second World War, the Vietnam War, about children, you know, and the innocent victims, women and children, civilians, called Other People's Children. And in the end, I tailed off in a catalogue of various countries where all this had happened. I mentioned Palestine. I did not mention Israel. So in Philadelphia, a bloke came up to me and he really read me the rag. You've got a lack of balance, you're obviously anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
And you don't know what to say. I mean, of all the people in the world that deserve peace and land and security of their own, the Jews are pretty high up on that list. So you just don't know what to say to them. And what you said is right. Treat people correctly. Treat them politely, treat them gently, treat them like human beings. And you'll make friends. There'll always be a few wild cards who will, you know, let you down and, you know, be fodder for Alan Jones and fucking Ray Hadley. But the bulk of the people that you will try to befriend, try to help, will become your friends. I've always believed that. If I didn't believe that, I wouldn't be writing songs and, you know, I wouldn't be involved with the world. And it's harder, as you know, to keep involved with it. No, probably you don't. I mean, I've seen Tom, you know, speaking all over the television for years, and that passion is still there. The only time I get passionate is after a couple of tons of malt whiskey.
I think your lyrics would deny that. But there's that song you sang last night, Now I'm Easy.
Yeah.
Fine old song. it is true, they're extraordinary. The soldier settlers, some of the things they went through, you know, men who had phantoms and had real injuries are given a farm. It's good for them. They're going to get better, you know. The wife ends up running everything and they go broke in the depression. And then they leave for the city. And now I'm easy, you said you heard that story from an old man in a pub in Collector.
Yeah.
And no doubt during your Canberra days.
Yes, I lived
when you were an accountant.
I was.
Yeah. So, and part-time singer. So, what is obvious, on the other hand, there's a long-winded question, but it will allow you to talk at great length. On the other hand, you say in one concert, I remember you said that you write occasional songs and the rest of the time you do fuck all. The truth is that you're like a novelist. You know, when you write a novel, you've got to hang around the novel. You've got to spend time in the presence of the novel, because creating even a line generates something from your unconscious, which is really working all the time. You've got to keep in touch with that unconscious all the time. So you're not doing fuck all, you're on the key V, and your unconscious is on the key V for the next lyric and the next narrative. Would you like to talk about that, how you've always, the truth is, not that you do fuck all, but you, in a sense, you never relax. And Carmen must notice this, Carmen must notice this.
Well, yeah, you're dead right. I mean, if I said that, I was being self-deprecating again.
Yes, you're self-deprecating.
Because that's my
self-barbecuing.
That's my shtick. Yeah. Look, I'm never, my mind's never more than a millisecond away from a song. And when I'm in situations, when I'm traveling, when I'm meeting people, I'm always looking for an angle. Okay, well, that'll make a nice song. I've got a rubbish bin up here in my mind filled with ideas of songs. And occasionally I'll pluck an idea for the rubbish bin and get down to it. I mean, the song that I really screwed up last night was my new song, The Flag. And that hasn't been in the rubbish bin long.
Yeah.
But I've been working on it for 3 months. No, I haven't been working on it, it's been nagging me for 3 months.
You've been living with it.
I've been living with it, and what eventually happens, I think, is I get so pissed off at being nagged by this song that I write it and say, right, now fuck off. That's what I say, fuck off. It's a guilt, and I think, I said, well, I'm capable of this, why am I not doing it, you know? And it's also a reaffirmation, because unlike Tom, possibly, as I go older, I've tended to disengage myself from it. It's a natural human reaction when you get older. You get more self-obsessed because your body's falling to pieces, you know, you're aching from every joint.
That's happening to me too, right? Yeah. I think there's too much to take up the flag about.
Yeah, he's dead now. But somebody has to do it, even old farts like us, you know. And if we can't, I've learned and got so much songs and so much inspiration and so much accumulated wisdom from people who have lived this life before me. I'm talking about dead people and live people. I would hope that I'm part of that process. That anything that any conclusions I've reached that have any value, I can talk to my friends, I can pass it on to young people who have not reached this stage of disenchantment. So, I must admit, I live my life with songs. I'm always worried, always thinking about it, or trying to write in my head at least. I think what stops me is that when you do get down to writing things down or trying to create something, you hit your own limitations. which were always there. And that can be a bit confronting at times. You think, well, I'm not Robert Burns, I'm Eric Bogle, and that's the best I can do. And it's not putting limits to yourself, it's just what the muse was giving me, I think.
Yeah.
I honestly think
Robbie Burns could never write a line like that one in your song, and I'm bowdlerizing it, forgive me, about freedom. Until the last chain falls, freedom makes slaves of us all. That's a brilliant couplet. That'd actually be not out of place in W.B. Yeats. Yeah, and that comes from long obsession and guilt and everything else.
Well, I've always, you know, most of my life, most of my adult thinking life, I've always thought that the main stumbling block to nirvana for the human race to reach peace and contentment and living together is racism. If somehow we could eliminate all racism tomorrow, would stop war, would stop hunger, would stop everything, we would become one. Racism is the cancer of our future. And if we can't cure that cancer, we're really in for shit. And you see it in the streets more and more every day. And I worry about it, and that's why I wrote The Flag. And I was happy that I still cared enough to write it, to be honest, because I've been disengaging myself, but I'm back engaged, I think. The arsehole quotient of the human race is increasing, and it's up to people like us to stand up, if we have a public voice, to voice our beliefs. You know?
Yes, you do feel sometimes, you know, I'm just a bull duster from Homebush who got lucky on a couple of occasions, learned to speak proper and learned to use $5 words. But that, even that level of eminence means that since the people have elected through their interest in your songs, in your case, people have elected you to a certain status, and you owe it to them to be a voice. And this isn't having yourself on, it is the truth. You can't waste your credit by ignoring egregious injustice, you know.
See, it's one of the things, unfortunately you're right, I mean, I've spent my life evading responsibility, but you've got to accept that if you make definitive statements in your songs, you've got to stand behind them. You know, you can't just say this is what I believe and then somebody comes up and say, well, do you really? And say, well, I was just saying it. What disappointed me about Bob Dylan, for instance, that Bob, early on in his career, just distanced himself from his song and said, no, it didn't mean what you thought it meant. And well, what did it mean to you, Bob? And he'd never tell you, you know. So, and then once he realised the enormous responsibility that was being put on by the general public of the voice of the 60s, radical 60s in America, he quite naturally shut himself and then tried to distance himself from it. As he's been doing it ever since. He never speaks to anybody in the audience, he never communicates with, he avoids the media, which I can't blame him for. So I was disappointed that he didn't become more of a voice. Anyway, but if you read his autobiography, you can see what his beliefs are. They're pretty strong beliefs too. Anyway, Eric Bogle criticises Bob Dylan. Has he got tickets to himself or what?
I think he was very lucky to win the Nobel when you had a poet like Les Murray in the world. And Les was a cranky old right-wing, or could be a cranky old right-wing, when he wasn't being a cranky old radical. But he was a brilliant he was the real thing. He was the Australian child of William Butler Yeats. He was the Australian brother of the famous Seamus Heaney, whom I knew. An ordinary Christian brother's boy. I knew him I taught, or actually I served Australian Chardonnay to graduate students at NYU, and Seamus was there. And this is the great thing about being a singer or a performer in any area. You meet people who are above your merits, don't you?
Yes, you're dead
Who
right.
do you cherish having met through your career?
My wife. Tom Paxton, whom I long admired as a voice of compassion.
Yes.
Very compassionate man, Tom, soft-hearted man. He tries to protect other lives. A lot of the people I met, I often get asked, most songwriters do, most creative people get asked, well, who inspired you? And it's hard for me to put a finger on any one person. And a lot of the fingers I'll put, and a lot of the names, will mean nothing to you. They're not famous, they're not well known. They're just brave people who've done the best with their lives without complaining, basically, like the cocky, you know. These are the people that I meet that inspire me, you know. It sounds like Walt Disney cliche shit, but it's true. It's increasingly hard to get out of bed in the morning, get out the front door and do the best you can. It takes more courage and more perseverance and more everything these days. The world is a fast-paced and often frightening pace. And the people who get up every day, go to the jobs that they don't particularly like, but they've got children to take care of and feed, you know, the single mothers, the fathers, the people who volunteer and help with all these organisations that would fold without them, the ones who, in spite of timidity, make a flag and walk along the street with it, supporting things they believe. Every one of them has inspired me to keep writing songs. The fellow artists I meet, I like to meet soul brothers and soul sisters. It helps to reinforce the path, and often a difficult and quite lonely path, and often unrewarding financially. Most musicians, 70% of professional musicians in this country live under the poverty line. 70%. They're professional musicians I'm talking about, not just part-time people like me.
They can share the baked beans with a lot of writers, I think. Have you ever, it's often the people who are significant are people whose name you might even not catch.
Yeah.
Someone who spoke to you after a concert. Meeting famous people, that gives you a buzz, etc. And you think, what am I doing meeting this person? But then on the other hand, it's the individual story by someone whose name you might not even remember. That is what stays with you, isn't it?
I've said often enough in my concerts. For instance, The Gift of Years, which is a song about World War I, the Anzacs come back to Gallipoli in 1990 for the 75th anniversary. And often when I've sang this song, I've said, or even before I sang it, I said, look, I didn't really write this song. This man's life wrote this song. I just made it rhyme, put a wee tune to it and collected the royalties. That's capitalism at work, you know. But it's very true that a lot of my songs were written by another person's life. That Cocky, for a start, he told me his story, I put it in a song.
And what you heard from Breitenbach.
Exactly.
That story, Breitenbach was a great Boer progressive, and he was imprisoned by the apartheid regime, wasn't he? wasn't he?
He
He's
married- he married a
great
colour
bloke. I
girl.
met him a couple of times, and he'd been in prison with
Yeah.
so he heard, he was in a cell when he heard this man sung to his death, which, by the way, you used to being flattered by me, but that's a great bloody song.
Breathing, breathe black. Oh, that song.
Yeah.
You know, if I hadn't been watching late night American television, why I have no idea, you know, I would never have known that story. And the image, you know, and the other one, you know, Lost Soul that I wrote about the Aboriginal soldier in World War I. If I hadn't met Julie Reese, a school teacher, with all her pupils, I'd never learned those stories, you know.
Yeah.
You can't create great pieces of literature or art or music or whatever by sitting in your bedroom on your own. Jeez, that's just a path to oblivion, you know.
And that's interesting. Last night, I'm sure you got involved with that on an entirely voluntary basis. They didn't pay, they gave you tax shop money, as you said, but you don't know what's going to bring the reward. If you follow your passion, it's sometimes more profitable than if you don't. That if you're trying to be wise, artists get buggered up when they try to be wealthy.
I've never been accused of being wise. Big like dickhead, you know, but I mentioned the 70% of musicians, professional musicians who make less than a living wage. Why do they keep doing it? Because the rewards are there. Not the monetary ones, but every other sort of reward as a human being. The communication with your fellow human beings, the admiration of a few of them who love your songs, the feeling that you're honestly creative. All these things are rewards, you know. I've had, the first time I ever had, I sang in 3 weeks in Sydney, Shamrock, or the little, it's still going apparently, but it's not a music club anymore. It used to be a big music club in Sydney. And John Monroe and I sang there a million years ago. And at the end of the gig, this man came up and he said, "Oh, are you a whiskey?" I said, "Oh, of course you do." "Mind me a double, thank you." And I said, "Well, what's all this about?" He said, "Well, you sang in Melbourne last night." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, my daughter was there. And we've been estranged for quite a few years since me and my wife broke up. And you sang a song called Scraps of Paper about your father, about finding this poetry and how it made you so sad that you couldn't be and connect with him because he was dead. And my daughter rang me the next day, and you know, this morning, and I'm going down to see her in Melbourne at the weekend. That's why I owe you a whiskey. Now that's a true story, and it made me, it's the first time ever, it's happened a few times since, not to that extent. And it just makes you feel good. And you think, I've done it very good. So those are the rewards that you just cannot put a monetary value in that. Double whiskey, $10. You know.
But orthodontists don't have experiences like that. They got Mercedes, but they don't have that experience.
Well, no.
No one comes up and says, "Gee, your crown is a knockout." I'm still living on it. The neighbours want to see it. I don't know why I'm picking on orthodontists. We all need them. We should let you, this has been a delight talking to you, and again, a great honour, and if there's ever anything I can be of service with, I'd be honoured to know, young, because you're still a developing talent. You're only in your 70s. Like all those 70-year-old bimbos out there, you still have a history ahead of you. But it is time for the crowd to have their say now. And so would you like to appoint the questioners, young woman? Yeah.
Young woman. We've had the wisdom of the elders, even though Eric says he's not wise. We've had the wisdom of the elders so far, but there might be a bit more wisdom that you would like to tease out of these wonderful gentlemen, Eric Bogle and Thomas Keneally. Give them a big hand. So if you have a question, would you like to step up here and pose your question?
Just shout it out. I'm 5'6".
Yes. Suji, I recognise you.
Chair recognises Suji. Eric, it's probably a silly question, but have you ever experienced songwriter's block for any great length of time? And if so, what have you done to get yourself out of it and get the creative juices flowing again?
Whiskey seems to be becoming a common theme. Yeah, okay. In my earlier days, songwriting, I used to, everybody does writer's block, and I'd worry a bit about it, and of course, the old saw is true, the more you worry about it, the more blocked you become. But when I started achieving some maturity, I realised, leave it. You know, it's not you, it's just how it happens. And you just leave it one day, it'll be back. You know, I've got a friend, Rab Noakes, his name is, a Scottish songwriter. He was going to be next door. He was good, Rab, he really was. And he suffered a horrendous writer's block. And what he did was he rented an office in the city, and he used to travel there every morning with pen and paper and sit down and try to write songs. He tried to impose a discipline on himself, you know, to help him write songs. It didn't work, of course. I mean, and basically, I mean, no, it's not much of advice. I just don't worry about it, because I know it will come back. And it's just a mental thing. It's not a physical thing that you can take, you know, a drink or something, but it's a mental thing. So, and the more you concentrate, the more blocks will become. Just relax. You know, I mean, Thomas has probably got his method for dealing with it.
Well, yes. If you're writing, and you all should, because I think there's a novelist in every human, and any mug can do it. You just got to be determined when you. I don't always do this, but its truth has been demonstrated again and again, and that is you write about anything. That writing is the cure for a problem in writing. That you write a letter to your beloved saying how you blocked, and the things you could do with the book, and the things you might do, and by the time you've finished, you often have the answer, and all you've got to do is cut out the dear so-and-so. I find that, have found that writing is the answer to writing, but in my earlier days, before I had my esophagus taken out by a clever, and I now have a 3-year-old's esophagus, so I can't really drink whiskey. But it's, it wasn't taken out of a 3-year-old. It's immature. So whiskey is no longer the answer, but hanging around, spending time in the presence of the song, as he did. If he's blocked, it's on his mind, he might go to the beach or whatever, I believe he's a dynamite surfer, but his unconscious is working. His unconscious mind has been sparked in its direction, and it will go on working 24/7. The same place your dreams come from, all your good metaphors, all the crossword clues, and all the answers to that after you know that the answer appears. And obviously from what you've said, that's the way you work. You do, the thing is still there nagging you, and you occasionally wave at it.
Yeah, you're never free of it. And that's the frustrating thing, of course. You think, okay, the writer of Bogle will write this song, so you write this song, you think, oh great, and then another song starts nagging at you. And so the process is infinite, you know. It just
And the other song's always a better song?
the song I've just written is the best song I've ever written. That's true of every songwriter I've ever met. Oh, he's doing my song, it's the best one ever, you know. And the problem with people who don't get a chance to sing their songs in public is that, well, not the problem, the reward is that they can go on believing that forever, because nobody ever hears a bloody song. But if you sing in public, the public soon tell you whether that's the best song you've ever written or not. I've always used the public as a bellwether for what works and what doesn't. If you accept that in the written arts and the songwriting arts, the basic aim is to communicate. If you're not communicating, then you're wasting your time. So I've written songs that I've sang. I don't just sing them once and then throw them away when I don't get a client reaction. I sing them a few times, and people will go, well, you know, I think, well, I'm not communicating with this song. Let's go into something else. So the problem is, with a lot of songwriters, they exert blood, sweat and tears to write this song. It's a hard process, nothing easy about it. So when you've spent all that emotional energy and physical time writing a song, and it turns out to be a crap song, it's very hard to throw it away. You know, it really is. I've learned to do it, but it's still hard, you know. I usually pluck a couple of good lines out of it and store them away to use in a better song. But the creative, when you're faced with your, I talked about it, when you're faced with the limits of your own creativity, it's quite sobering.
This is becoming a masterclass in creativity. Has anyone else got a question? Yes.
Thank you. I met Eric for the first time in the foyer. Saw him for the first time last night. I write songs. I sent through that wonderful thing, Facebook. Sent a couple of messages to Eric with lyrics, and recently recording, and I was pretty humbled that he responded. So yeah, I don't know what the question is really, but I appreciated it. And, yeah.
Well,
Can I say perhaps a question?
yes.
What is the value of the communication between yourself and your fan base?
It's partly, I couldn't operate without it. I mean, nobody can operate in a vacuum in any field of human endeavour. But certainly the creative one, without the feedback I get from the people who listen to songs and people who think of the song, you know, what would be the point of doing it? What would be the point? Sure. Steve, sorry, whatever. Steve, I didn't recognise him. He sent me this video of him sitting down in a stool, and I thought he was of average height. Very funny, tall people.
You're not going to thwart his career, are you?
But
He's a bit good looking too.
yeah, well, I didn't want to mention that. And I said to Steve outside, I said, look, I've answered every song I've ever been sent. It's true. I've been sent a lot, but I know what it's like to write songs and nobody responds, nobody listens. That's how I started, you know, and nobody wanted to hear my songs, so I just kept plugging away. So it takes me a couple of minutes of my life, you know, to encourage somebody to go ahead. You know, I don't set myself up as a critic. I don't like people say, what do you think of this? Because I'm one person and I've got a certain love for certain types of music. I hate other types. Just because I hate it doesn't mean they don't have value. So I say, if it's what you love, if you really want to do, if it makes you happy, do it. Keep doing it. And that's my standard reply. I've only ever once sent a negative thing saying, this is a piece of racist shit. Don't ever send me a song like this. Don't send me any song. Find a cliff and jump off it. But that's the only negative. That's only ever happened once. I haven't sent hundreds of songs, thousands maybe, over 40 years. And even before the internet, I used to write wee letters, dozens and dozens, you know, because I thought it was important. One, if everybody sang, played a musical instrument, this world would be a better place. So I like to encourage that. And also I know how lonely it is, you know. So if they get a wee note from me saying, good luck, keep at it, you know. And if it means something, why not do it, for God's sake?
Condemn them to a life of poverty.
Well, yes. I mean,
Poverty and joy. That's you can't stop people wanting to write
no,
if they want to write.
I mean, it's the old joke, you know. I met this folk singer friend of mine, and he said, I just won the lottery, you know, $8 million. I said, what are you going to do? He said, oh, I'll keep spending now and go back to folk music. You know, things like that.
I think we have time for one more quick question. Is there anyone else who has a very quick? Rory,
Yes.
come out here, Rory.
Many of your songs have a political overtone or are explicitly political. What would you say are your political influences, and more broadly, what is the role of politics in music or vice versa?
Yeah, it's a good
Thank
question.
you, Rory. Rory is a Keneally, your grandson,
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for your question.
The miracle of Keneally good looks. It's been at a low ebb for the last couple of thousand years. Christina's an assistant symptom of it too. Sorry.
Interesting question. I mean, I sucked socialism through my mother's teeth, coming from working class Scots background. I mean, there was no other politics in our house, in our area, in our town, really. So I was an automatic socialist right from the start. And if you're born in the working class, I hate to talk in classes, but for the purpose of this answer, I will. You see the injustice. You don't just read about it, you know, in the Guardian. You actually live them and you see them. You see the people who struggle to make a living, the people who are not paid well, the people not treated well in workplaces. That's living in a socialist society, if you like. So that forms your opinions. I mentioned politics. Nobody's in doubt about politics when they listen to a concert. No doubt about it. I learned to temper my political views with humour and with other human conditions. Because if I just harangued people politically for an hour and a half, never get a gig, you know. I mean, Hannes Vader, who is still a wonderful German singer-songwriter. Hannes, I went to a concert with Hannes in East Germany, and he sang heavy-duty political songs for 2 hours, and the Germans loved it. If I did that in Australia, you'd hang me after 10 minutes. And if you want a message, if you want what you think or what you believe to have some effect, then you tread gently. And because what I say, what I believe, is it the truth? Is it how it is? I don't know. It's just what I believe. So why should I shove it down other people's throats? But I do. I'll try not to shove it down other people's throats. But I don't want anybody to walk away from a concert questioning which side of the fence I'm on. Because I'm on the right side of the fence.
It looks as though we've reached the close.
Do either of you want a last comment? Perhaps a one-liner for the rest of our lives?
One-liner. I'll finish off by saying that the main reason I accepted to come to the Sydney Festival was the chance to even talk to this man. Now, I've heard, you said lots of nice things about me, and I really do appreciate it. It shows dementia setting in. This man is a living national Australian treasure. And it's my pleasure.
Last night, behind us, a man, when you sang your song about the horizon and the green and gold, a man said that will become the anthem of Australia. And to have made, to come from Peebles, to be the pride, something less than the pride of Peebles, and to come here and be a national treasure in the land of the Dreamtime, to absorb the concept of the Dreamtime and to absorb the mythology of bushrangers and to a lesser extent bushrangers, and to a huge extent World War I and World War II and the rest of it. It has been a lucky development for us. Thank God he didn't go to Canberra. Thank God to Canada. Thank God he's ours.